Hey guys, I noticed something weird on my serve. So I study my own serve all the time and try to improve it. Even though I'm 44 years old, there's never too late to add new things, to add improvements to your own shots. So here's the thing that I noticed. When I serve from the ad side, I have a certain type of stance. I will put my back foot behind the front foot with a gap in between the feet. I made a video titled Pinpoint versus Platform Stance, and I highly recommend that you watch it, because in this video I discuss how the positioning of our feet can make the coil more natural. So the further the feet are apart on the serve, the more natural coiling we get on our serve. For example, John McEnroe or even Pete Sampras have an extreme lateral platform stance. What that means is that when John McEnroe, for example, takes his racket back into the trophy face, his chest is almost facing the back fence, and this is related to the way his feet are positioned in the setup phase of a serve. Now, of course, it's still possible to coil even if your feet are parallel to each other in the setup stage of your serve. However, you would have to make the coil later on in the service motion, and it is not as intuitive as if you would put your feet further apart, meaning that the back foot is behind the front foot. When we do this, naturally, as we take our racket back, we get a larger coil. So naturally on my serve, when I set my feet up in this position, when I get into that trophy phase, my elbow gets to about right here. Now here's the interesting thing. When I serve from the do side, I don't set my feet up in the same way. My back foot is much closer to my front foot. So the tip of my back foot is aligned somewhere with the heel foot, so there's no gap there. This is a significant difference, because what's going to happen as a result of this, as I go into the trophy phase of my serve, my elbow will be less coiled than it is on the ad side. So I was really interested to see whether the professional players have similar setups on their serve. So I looked up 4 players with platform stances. I looked up Pete Sampras, Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, and Milos Raonic. Now, to my surprise, Federer, Raonic, and Djokovic had the exact same setup on their serve. So when you see Federer serving from the ad side, you will see a gap between his feet. This is the same for Djokovic and Raonic. And all 3 players, when they serve from the do side, doesn't matter what serve they're doing, flat, slice, or kick, the back foot will be significantly closer to the front foot, and it's aligned the same way my feet are aligned on the do side. The tip of the back foot is aligned with the heel of the front foot. Now, consequently, these players are also getting less coil on the do side compared to the ad side. So the first question I ask myself when I discover something interesting like this is it possible that some of the greatest servers of all time, like a Federer or a Raonic, can have weaknesses on their serves? Are they doing something wrong? And the first instinct that I always have is no, they can't possibly have any weaknesses. However, on this particular issue, the interesting thing is that I looked up Pete Sampras as well. Now, Pete, in my opinion, has the greatest serve of all time, together with Ivanišević. And when Pete sets up his serve, no matter if he's on the ad side or the do side, the feet are very far apart. There's a large gap between his feet on both sides. And consequently, Pete gets a tremendous amount of coil on the do side as well as the ad side. So when I apply my fundamentals to this particular topic, it is absolute fact that when we get a larger coil, and I'm talking about serves at the high level, the more coil a player gets, there's more range of motion. In other words, when the elbow is further back, there's more space for the arm and the racket to accelerate. When there's less of a coil, there's less space to do so. Now, interestingly, I think a lot of players, like myself, when we are serving towards the do side, we have this mental block, because the ball is going towards the left, but yet we are going to be turned towards the right. So many players suffer from this mental block. They think that they can't really get the ball inside that box if they're turned towards the opposite side. Now we don't have this problem when we're serving to the ad side, because even though we're turned this way, the ball is going towards the right. So it's much easier to accept for us mentally that we're going to coil quite a bit when we're serving towards the ad side, or in other words, towards the right for right-handed players. But I gotta tell you, I tried out the different stances, and I'm gonna make the switch. When I'm from now on serving on the do side, I'm gonna set my feet up further apart and I'm gonna get a larger coil. Yes, it does feel a little bit awkward, but I gotta tell myself that the direction of the ball depends on the angle of the racket face. It doesn't depend on how my body is positioned. So even though I'm serving here, from now on, I'm gonna keep my feet further apart, a la Sampras, and what I've been experiencing is more torso rotation and more power with this type of setup, serving towards the do side. So guys, the question is it wrong what Federer, Raonic, and Djokovic, for example, are doing? And by the way, there's many other players with platform stances that have this same interesting characteristic in common, but I don't think it's generally wrong to serve with the feet closer together. It's also not wrong to have the elbow in a more neutral position. This is going to be up to a player's preference. Some players are uncomfortable coiling a lot. Just think about copying John McEnroe's serve. I can't do it. It's too extreme of a coil. I can't get out of this coil, and some players might be the same way. Now, when it comes to those three players, maybe if they tried it out, they liked it better. Maybe they haven't been presented with this information. I'm not sure. But when it comes to myself, I have tested this out, and there's absolutely no doubt that when I set my serve up in the regular way, the way I've been doing it for 30 years, I don't get as much power as I do with this new stance. So let me try it out one more time. I'm gonna set it up the regular way, the way I was doing it for many years. Okay, and now I'm going to try the new Pete Sampras way. I'm going to have my feet further apart, even on the do side. Absolutely, I get more torso rotation, I get more power, and I'm doing this. I'm making the switch, guys. Long live Pete Sampras, greatest server of all time.